glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. So welcome. Let's start talking. My name is Garrison-Brook. I'm glad you're here. This is the first in our series, which is our Death Contemplation series. And I am going to be pulling from this document, and I'll share the link so that y'all can read it in advance. It's from the work of Atisha, who was an 11th century Tibetan monk. And Joan Halifax and Larry Rosenberg used Atisha's work on death contemplations, the 9 contemplations, to sketch this out, to enlarge on this. So one by one, we're going to go through all 9 contemplations class by class. And then in our 10th class, which will fall on November 1st, because I've got to take a bit of a gap, we will do our death meditation. Okay? So, as you settle in to this series, I really invite you to stay plugged into the witness, plugged into, how this is landing with you, so that, as we ask these questions, you take care of yourself. Maybe if something is hitting you in a really tender spot, maybe you turn down the volume and you just watch me and do yoga, with us silently until you feel like you've landed, or you go into child's pose silently and give yourself time to, come to a space where you're maybe comfortable with rejoining us. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, nope, for today, that was enough, okay? Because these are really big questions. We often ask big questions in this class, but these are some of the biggest questions, biggest contemplations. So just an invitation for you to take care. All right. So coming to the head, actually, let's come to a seat. All right. Taking an easy seat, letting the knees drop open. And allow yourself to settle down here. Hands are on the knees, close the eyes. Nice tall spine, maybe sitting on a block or a cushion or a blanket, whatever it is, or a chair or a couch. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. We'll just be here for a few minutes. And feel yourself landing here in this body, in this space, in this practice. First and foremost, connecting to this grounded sense of wellness. Saying to yourself, I am safe. I am here. And breathe here. Breathing in and out. I didn't realign my camera. I do that sometimes. Breathing. Another breath. And the invitation for us here is to really root down into our first chakra, Muladhara chakra, so that we feel rooted, we feel stable as we start with our first contemplation. So bringing the hands to the heart space, maybe gently rub the hands in front of the heart. And the seed sound, the bija, for Muladhara is lam, lam. So nice big inhale. Envisioning your roots coming off the block or the cushion, if you're sitting on the block or the cushion. Envisioning your roots grounding down into the earth. Okay, hands are on the knees. And then let's shift the hands onto the shin. I've got my left leg in front, so I'm holding onto the top of the left foot and the left shin. And then you exhale it back. So this is like a seated cat and cow. And for me, wow, this feels really good. Inhale it forward. And exhale it back. So our first contemplation is that all of us will die sooner or later. Okay? All of us will die sooner or later. Inhale forward. And exhale back. So just thinking about that, death is inescapable. Every living being on this earth will die sooner or later. Just allowing that to settle. As you just undulate the spine, we inhale forward and we exhale back, hanging on the shin, hanging on the foot, as you just open the back heart. Breathing here. We've done a lot of work on the egoic self. The small self, I've heard some of this referred to. Hands are on the knees. And I'm currently reading Exhale, Lion's Roar had an issue. Inhale forward. This is the Sufi grind. Exhale back. So we're swirling ourselves. So we glide forward in a circle. Inhaling, lead with the chin. Exhale, bring that chin back to the chest, the Sufi grind, really rooting down into the tail. And this article that I'm reading says that the small self, the egoic self, it plans to live forever, right? And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Because, we've talked about how we've got Atman, right? Atman, Jiva. That's our eternal self, the soul. Whatever language you use, go ahead and switch directions. But, ironically enough, that's the larger self. That's the self that is, eternal. It's never changing. Ironically enough, we live, virtually all of us, the majority of the time, from the ego, the small self. And this is our conditioning. This is, what culture has told us we should be, how we've learned to earn love, earn accolades, validation from teachers, from families, from friends, right? That's the egoic self, the persona, the mask we wear. Okay? And this egoic self, breathing here, forward and back. And then let's come on to the back body. This egoic self, the small self, is very individual. And what I mean by that is that because the egoic self is always, it's the part of the brain where we're rock it out, bring the knees in, swirl those knees around. And let's go through our Kundalini flow, our sweet movements of the spine, just to start waking up the body. Left leg stretches out, right knee hugs into the chest. So, our egoic self is always looking for validation. We're always looking for how we're different, how we're special. And because of all of these different habits that we have, we're constantly setting ourselves up as separate, as individuals. Hug the knee into the chest, and then extend that leg long, arms are overhead. And this sense of individuality, right, it creates a lot of our anxiety. And then hug the left knee into the chest. And that means that the egoic self, just by virtue of the way it's wired, is tremendously anxious and nervous about the thought of death. Because the egoic self knows that when we die, it's gone. Atman Jiva, the eternal self, continues on, right? But our persona, when we die, it's gone. And the egoic self is all about continuing. Hug that knee into the chest, inhaling. Exhale the legs long, arms overhead. So just flowing with the breath at your own pace, we're wringing out the spine. Inhale, knee into chest. Exhale, twist. Close the eyes, go inside. Breathing here into the body. So we're always inhaling the knee into the chest, and we're exhaling on the opposite movement, whether it's extending your leg long or it's twisting. This is such a great detoxifying flow. It's tremendously good for the health of the spine. It's very good for the internal organs to just wring ourselves out. So again, going at your own pace. So Joan Halifax writes, "Not a single sentient being, no matter how spiritually evolved, powerful, wealthy, or motivated, has escaped death. The Buddha, Jesus, and Mohammed did not escape death, nor will you and I. All the gifts of your life, education, wealth, status, strength, fame, gender, friends, and family will make no difference at the moment of death. In fact, many of these circumstances can make dying harder because we hang on to them. Death lends a sense of profound equality to us all." So bringing the soles of the feet up close to the hips, feel the feet rooting down. So when it comes down to our contemplation, the invitation is for us to look at our lives. What are you doing right now that will help you die? Okay? So consider this and then observe your response to this question. What are you doing right now that will help you die? So windshield wiper those knees to the right as you look to the left. You know, when I'm 51 years old, I'm in, knock on wood, I'm in perfect health. Inhale those knees up, exhale them down. So if you're like in a place where you're like, I'm perfectly healthy, I don't feel like I'm doing anything to help prepare myself to die, right? Because it doesn't feel like I'm in that phase of life. Well, just see, is there something that can shift in me. And we'll continue on through the contemplations about how life is truly, it can be unpredictable. Things can arise. And so we're just continuing to windshield wiper those knees. And then hug the knees into the chest. And the cover of Lion's Roar, the magazine that I mentioned, that talks about death, float on up, just rocking back and forth. And it said how contemplating death can transform your life. And I think that's at the heart of it, right? Because let's say with medical advancement, with me being 51 as an example, let's say, I'm halfway through my life. Let's assume that I'll make it to 100, which I think is pretty reasonable. So come on up. And then come on to standing and all the way up. Lifting up into your Urdhva and hands down the midline. And something that comes to mind here about why this is relevant for all of us to consider death. Feet are hip width apart and a nice easy empty coat sleeves. What Anand says, Anand Mehrotra, whom I've studied with, he talks about how so many of us use life as a waiting room, right? We use life as if it's a waiting room. And he goes on to explain, soften those arms, feet at the head of the mat. And again, Urdhva Hastasana, reaching up, stretch up, lift up, and then exhale, dive down. First, Uttanasana, soften those knees as much as you need to. Arms hang heavy, head hangs heavy. So he goes on to explain that so many of us, say, I'll be happy when? I'll be happy when? I'll be happy when I get my driver's license. I'll be so happy when, inhale, arch up halfway, flat back. I'll be so happy when I graduate from high school. I'm going to be so happy when I get into that college. Step that right leg back. I'm going to be great. It's going to be so happy. I'm going to be so happy when I get my degree. When I have enough money saved to buy that car. When I have enough money saved to buy that house. When I get the promotion. When I get married. When I have kids. When the kids move out. Grab the hands. Step it back, down dog. Walk your dog out. Right? It's like we're constantly moving the goalposts. Tailbone rises up, head hangs heavy. Walk out your dog. Loving on your dog here, loving on this body. Tailbone rises up and head hangs heavy. So if we're able to shift, this is where, contemplating death transforms our life. It takes us out of this sense of life being the waiting room, where it's always like, I'll be happy when. Drop the knees down, hands under shoulders. Lift up, cow pose, Uttanasana. Exhale, arch. Are you saying my camera, the camera is messed up still? Inhale, left. And exhale, come on down. Arching into your cat. I'm looking at it. It looks okay to me. Jackie, are you saying that you still want me to? It was before I fixed it. Okie dokie smoky. When you said again, I got confused. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, arch. Widen those knees. Touch the toes. Sit back. So by going through these contemplations, the hope is that, we just become more grounded in the reality that every day is a gift. Every day is a gift, right? So this awareness that, we'll talk about it throughout the different contemplations, that this life, we will be transitioning out of this life. This life is finite. If we really, really, really plugged into that awareness, another breath, and then come on up. If we really plugged into this awareness, would we maybe taste a little bit more of the sweetness of this life? Head hangs heavy, tailbone rises up. And float that right leg back and up. If you like three-legged dog, stretch the right leg up. Roll the foot. Another breath. And step it forward. Coming into your Vera 1. Take your time. Float it up. Breathing here in your Vera 1. And then open it up into your Virabhadrasana 2. Stretching from fingertip to fingertip. Jackie and I were having a conversation about what it's like when you're practicing yoga by yourself and how we can be as vocal as we want to be. And then come into your goddess pose. And then straighten the legs. Arms reach up, 5-pointed star. Breathing here. And then again into goddess. And then Virabhadrasana 2, facing the back of the mat. Breathe. So this will be a mandala flow. And then set your feet so you're shortening your stance a bit, coming into your Virabhadrasana 1, facing the back of the mat. Left leg is forward. And then hands come down, either side of the foot. Down dog. Breathing your tailbone up. Head hangs heavy. And now I invite you to float that same right leg up. Okay? You know how sometimes I get myself scrambled, but I'm not scrambled in this instance. Stepping that right foot forward. And we're coming up into Vera 1 again. Floating it up. Open the heart facing the back of the mat. Enjoying a different perspective. And then open it up, Virabhadrasana 2, stretching fingertip to fingertip. So again, the contemplation is, what are you doing to prepare for death? And the answer you might come up with is nothing. I'm not doing anything. And that's totally fine to have that realization. Come into your goddess, facing the right side of the mat. Arms are up. Cactus arms. Straighten the legs. Come on up into your 5-pointed star. Maybe stretch it open. Opening yourself. Opening yourself up to a different perspective on life. And then sit it down. Goddess pose. And now lengthen into your Vera 2. Breathing. And then shorten your stance. Vera 1 on this side. Open it up. And hands down either side of the foot. Because that in itself is powerful to know, isn't it? That in itself is powerful to know that you're like I'm just not there, you know? Okay, this is the beginning. This is the beginning of our contemplations. Tailbone rises up, head hangs heavy. And then let's come on down into child's pose. Let those hips come down heavy. So remind yourself, death is inevitable. I too will die. So on the in-breath, we can say to ourselves, death is inevitable. And on the out-breath, I too will die. This contemplation is about us realizing we cannot avoid our death. So where do we go? How does this land with us? As we breathe in to this sense of our death being inevitable, the death of all whom we know and love, their deaths are inevitable. Does it land with us? Or does it just feel kind of like almost a storyline? How do you feel? Another breath. And come on up. Walking the feet out. Another breath. And float that left leg back. We'll do the same mandala flow. We'll go in the opposite direction. So now our left leg is stretching up. Roll the foot on the ankle if you'd like. If you don't love three-legged dog, then just chill and down dog until we step our foot forward into our Vira 1. Take your time. Set your feet. Lift it up. Virabhadrasana 1. Opening up the heart. And there's no doubt that our ego can get very busy defending, very busy distracting, right? Lengthen it out, Virabhadrasana 2. Because this is pretty uncomfortable stuff. You know, for those who have gone through my workshop, you know, you could be thinking, oh yeah, there's the elephant. What does the elephant do again? Elephant, our limbic center, our emotional center. Our limbic center is all about dispelling upset as quickly and easily as possible. Breathing here in our Vira 2. And then come into goddess. Heels in, toes out, sit down. Okay, cactus arms, breathing into the strength of the legs. And then straighten those legs, toes face in, stretching up, 5-pointed star. Feel your length. And then again, toes out, sit down, goddess. Feel the strength, the heat in the legs. And then turn towards the back of the mat. Coming into our Virabhadrasana 2. Feeling the strength. Rooting down into the feet as you rise up. And then shorten the stance, Vira 1. Open the heart. And then hands down. Either side of the foot facing the back of the mat. Down dog. What stories are you telling yourself as you work through this contemplation? Maybe you're distracting yourself. Left leg reaches up, stretches up. And then step it forward into your Virabhadrasana 1. Notice where you go as you say to yourself, death is inevitable. I too will die. Like, you know, my general reaction is it just doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel, bringing the foot back, it doesn't feel, it certainly doesn't feel immediate, you know. So it feels very cerebral rather than real, like a real lived experience. I think emotionally that's kind of where I land. For me, in my phase of life, it's what hits me more is the fact that I'm getting into a place where the next generation above me is starting to be pretty vulnerable. So that's kind of more where I go emotionally, coming into Goddess. And all these things, there's nothing wrong with these things, right? Breathing into the strength of the thighs, strength of the legs. Straighten those legs, toes point forward, reach it up, 5-pointed star. And then again, down into Goddess. And with Goddess, I haven't said this, we're now pretty much done with Goddess, but anytime we're in Goddess and you want to add in a lion's breath, that's always great, especially if you're like me and you have a tendency to grind your teeth at night. Oh, I know that I'm not alone. So stretching fingertip to fingertip, Virabhadrasana 2. So you can always add lion's breath to anything. Goddess pose is where I often think to add it in. Although I didn't think until the end here. And Virabhadrasana 1. Open the heart. And hands come down. Death is inevitable. I too will die. You know, and I told y'all, tailbone rises up, head hangs heavy. Widen those knees, touch the toes, sit back. Hands reach forward. I told you about that Jodi Picoult book that I read, I guess about a month or so ago, which was about her main character was in the role of a death doula. And she talked about, she was in conversation, just breathing here in your child's pose, maybe move the hips back and forth, stretching those arms forward, allow your heart to melt down. Death is inevitable on the inhale. I too will die on the exhale. And arms reach forward, come on, up. Curling the toes under, come into your rabbit. Hands wrap around the soles of the feet and then lifting up onto the crown of the head. So her main character said something, she had a conversation which really resonated with me, where she was talking to a colleague who was asking about her, you know, as a death doula, what surprised her the most, coming back, really making sure that those pinky toes are tucked under, and then lift it up. Right arm reaches up and drops back. Catch the hands if you can. If you can't, grab a strap or grab your t-shirt. Right elbow reaches up as the left elbow comes back. Make sure that you're not hunching forward. Another breath. And then switch sides. And your toes are probably barking. This is broken toe pose. I jokingly say this is the yoga pose that needs a better PR person. Left elbow reaches back. And then come on onto the shins, onto the soles of the feet, tops of the feet, come onto the earth. Breathing here in your Virasana, your hero pose. Whew. Another breath. And rocking forward, plug the hands in, curl the toes, lift the hips. So he was asking her what she found surprising about being a death doula, and what she said is, what I find really surprising is that it's only at the end of our lives that we can see the shape of our lives. Breathing here in your dog. Another breath. Float that right leg back and up. If you like three-legged dog, cranking open into fire hydrant pose. I have no idea what the name of this is in Sanskrit. And then square the hip And step it forward into your pigeon pose. So these contemplations, so many of us, as we get to the end of life, we realize, I didn't focus on the right stuff. My priorities were whacked. Right? Walk those hands forward. And that's what this whole series is about. Coming down into your Kakutasana. Breathe into that right hip. Remember, you can absolutely get a blanket or a block under that hip if it's really, really high. If your right knee is super grumpy, don't do it. Don't do traditional. Come onto your back. Okay? Right ankle on the left knee and bring those knees in. Okay? You can also do this at the wall with the foot flexed. That can be really sweet because it doesn't involve a lot of muscular effort, but you still get a nice deep opening in that left hip. All right? At the wall, meaning that this left flexed foot is placed on the wall. So it might involve a little bit of moving around, a little bit of maneuvering. So the hope is that with us doing this kind of work, we're able to get to the end of our lives and look back without regret. Without regret. Like, okay, my priorities, I did not use my life as a waiting room. I lived my life. I lived, I loved. I made a difference. I connected to others. That's why we're doing this work. No matter what phase of life you are in, these contemplations are a gift. Breathing here. Inevitably, I will die. Death is inevitable. I will die too. Death is inevitable. All of my loved ones will die. It's the way of the world. Death is inevitable. Another breath. And walk the hands up. And swing it around, coming into your Ardha Matsyendrasana. Half Lord of the Fishes pose. Now remember with Ardha Matsyendrasana, this bottom leg isn't so important. So I've got my right leg bent underneath me. My left knee is on top. Okay? So if you're really falling to the right, straighten the bottom leg. Okay. All right, and then with this left knee, we can wrap the arm around us. Oh, there we go. So Wen says that, I don't know what our min 8 a T suggests. What's a min 8 a T? When was that a typo? Writing down our memorial service and letting loved ones know where we filed it. Oh. I love that. So you're saying that before we pass, that we write down our memorial service and then let them know where it is so that they can then go find it after we've passed. Minister. Okay, letting the minister know. The minister, your minister suggested it. I got you. Okay, and where that we left it. Okay. All right. Oh, that's awesome. Don't you love typos, man? That's great. Thank you for sharing that. So hugging, twisting to the left. Breathing, breathing, breathing. Keep flowing with the breath. And isn't that an interesting thing, to write your own obituary, right? Turning to the right. That would be a really interesting exercise, contemplation, meditation for any of us to do. Soles of the feet together. Writing our own obituary right now. Because isn't that us effectively taking stock of the shape of our lives? And maybe saying, I don't like it. What about this and this and this and this? Right? Breathing here in your Kakutasana, soles of the feet together. Widen the legs. That's really sweet, Gwen. Thank you for that suggestion. Lifting up into your wide-legged seat. And I always bring my hands behind me and I kind of roll the pelvic bowl forward, right? And then we maybe come forward a little bit. I'm feeling pretty tight today. So this is where we're super, super, super patient with ourselves. Super, super patient. Toes are straight up, knees are straight up. Coming forward into our forward fold. Death is inevitable. I too will die. And I've forgotten her first name. Joan. Joan counsels us and she says, watch what the mind may do to escape this very simple fact. Can you face this truth that death is inevitable? Can you feel it in your body, your blood, your bones? Can you know it in your breath? The inevitability of death pervades every cell in your body. Please do not forget this. Death is inevitable. This is the first contemplation. Walking the hands up. Soles of the feet together. You know, and if Joan was sitting right here and she was saying, can you feel it in your body, your blood, your bones? Can you know it in your breath? Right now, my answer would be like, not really. I don't know, I'm just not there, you know? I mean, it's very here. It's not lived. So that's my work. And if you're in the same place, you're not alone. Okay? Breathing here in your Kakutasana. That's why we're doing this work. Okay? So as you're ready, turning. If you're like me, I always like to come into pigeon pose from down dog. It's now our left leg that goes forward. Like a wing. This is our wing in pigeon pose, and then we kind of lever the hips back. Remember that you can do it on your back if your knees are tweaky. Beautiful, open heart. And then come on down. Okay. Oh, that's so nice. Denise says she has a book with chapters dedicated to loved ones and friends. Each person has a dedicated song, which will be on a disc in the book. Very nice. Very, very nice. Very nice. Breathing here into your pigeon, breathing into the hip. Death is inevitable. I too will die. All of my loved ones will die. You know, in one of the, thinking about Wen's idea of writing your obituary, breathing into this left leg. My class, In Pursuit of Purpose, you know, my positive psychology class that I offer, we do something which is a twist on that. It's not exactly the same, but it's called the fantastic future, which is when you imagine yourself close to the end of life, having lived an amazing life, walking those hands up. And you imagine where you are and what you've done. Again, this is about, you know, looking at the shape of our lives, right? So we stop using life as a waiting room, shoulders down, back. And then we lever ourselves onto the left hip if we're in classic pigeon. If you're on your back, I invite you to sit up to join us. Coming into Ardha Matsyendrasana on this side. So with Ardha Matsyendrasana, now our left leg is on the bottom. If you can keep the hips evenly grounded, you can leave the left leg bent. Otherwise, straighten the bottom leg. Right knee is on top, and we wrap our arm around the leg as we twist to the right. Breathing here. And I think the more that we, just live life from the sense of the small self, the egoic self, the scarier death feels. The more that we can plug down into our cosmic self. You might, for those of you who have been studying with me, an invitation to remember that the cosmic self is like the ocean, which is like the quantum realm. Prakriti is the word in Sanskrit. Another breath to the right, and then a side twist to the left. So Prakriti, soles of the feet together. Knees are open. Anand uses the analogy of it's like the ocean, right? Our cosmic self is like the ocean. And then our individual selves are like waves. But a wave is never separate from the ocean. It's constantly arising out of the ocean. So the more that we can drill back down into our cosmic self, this connection to the divine or the universe or source or whatever speaks to you from a belief system, the more connected we feel to the cosmic self, I think the less scary this feeling of transition to death will be for us. Because it's just us returning to the cosmic self, right? Breathing into your Baddha Konasana. And then I invite you to come on to the back body. And just release down, relax down into your Shavasana. One last time on the inhale, death is inevitable. Exhale, I too will die. And then gently let that go. Let everything go. And let the body just melt down. Feeling safe, feeling held by Gaia, loved and supported by Mother Earth, melting the body down. So Rumi writes, our death is our wedding with eternity. He also goes on to say, a lover's life lies in death. You shall not find a heart without losing the heart. And he writes, goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation. There is no such thing as separation. Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation. Our death is our wedding with eternity. So allow this paradigm shift to maybe settle in with you if these words resonate. Our death is our wedding with eternity. It's our reconnection to the cosmic self, where there is no separation between us and all of our loved ones. Another breath. And then as you're ready, bringing movement back into the body. Wiggling fingers and toes if that speaks to you, or moving as the body is called to be moved. Listening to the body. And then, with no sense of hurry, rolling over onto the right side, cradling the heart, and carefully press yourself up into an easy seat, wrapping the arms around yourself in a gentle sway, a gentle rock, from side to side, sending yourself love and compassion, whatever your experience was like today. Just recognizing that you are where you are. You're just exactly where you need to be. Breathing. And bringing the hands together. Rubbing the hands at the heart space. And then placing the right hand on top of the heart, the left hand on top of that right hand. Shining positivity, shining love, compassion, kindness down into this heart, this beautiful heart of yours. Let's take a nice big inhale and we'll Om out together.